So hello friends, this will be our last chapter for this Docker series, and like in this particular chapter we will be discussing about the YML, or you can say it as to be YAML, that is YAML and markup language. So what exactly YAML is, we will discuss in a minute. So this is something like which is required to build up Docker Compose file. So while discussing of the architecture of Docker and how exactly Docker works, we also discussed like what is a Docker Compose file. So just for a glimpse, a Docker file is something which defines the definition of the container. But when you're running more than one container on a single host, then you use Docker Compose file. Like you just need to do Docker Compose up, and like all the instances or all the containers which is defined in this Docker file are executed and come into a runnable form. So we will be doing these things. Next is like we will be installing a Docker Compose. So whenever you go ahead and install Docker, it does not mean that you have also installed Docker Compose. So you need to install Docker separately, and then you need to install Docker Compose. Obviously, Docker Compose requires Docker engine. Without Docker Compose will not work. But without Docker Compose, Docker can work. So for now, let us begin with YAML file format. What exactly is YAML file format? So it says that this is a YAML end markup language, but like this is particularly not a language. I will not say it is a language such as C++ or Java, which we have as a high level language. No, this is just a representational language. So as we have JSON, and in JSONs we store objects in key value pair. So most of you must have used JSON, right? So in JSON we store data in key value pair, and again we can have JSON objects, we can have JSON arrays. In the same way, YAML file format also stores data in the key value format. So what is YAML? You just open up a text file and give it an extension of .yml or .yaml, and inside that you write up data. So what kind of data it is? It is the information which you are providing up. So for example, for this particular tutorial, you need to understand that these three concepts of YAML, which is the key value pair. Second, how we write up array or list in YAML, and third, how we map or write up a dictionary. So there is a format. So whenever we say key value pair, key is and value, both of them are always separated via a colon. So this is the key. It says fruit. Which fruit? Apple. Value. So whenever some program which understands YAML, it will read this file and it will know that key is fruit and value is apple. So whenever someone asks for the fruit, it will give us apple. So in this similar way, vegetable is carrot, but there can be more than one fruits. So here we have just mentioned apple. Fruits can be orange, apple, banana. So in the similar way, this will become an array. So don't worry so much. I will make you understand this particular file with respect to Docker. As of now, just try to understand the meaning of these three words, which is key value pair, array list, and dictionary map. So in this sense, I will just copy it and write it over here, saying that this is not the right thing and the fruits can be written in more ways. So this is perfect. Now we say that fruit is or can be orange, can be apple, can be banana. So this is represented by an or, because it can be orange, or it can be apple, or it can be banana. So this is what? This is a key, and the values are three. So in the first place the value is orange, on the second place the value is apple, and on third place the value is banana. So this particular key value pair becomes an array now, right? In this similar way, we can say that banana, a banana has its various properties. So we can say something like this. So let me delete this or. So this is not required over here. So one thing you have to see over here is a key and value is always separated by a colon, and a array item is always represented by a dash. This is how this language is built, and you should always give a proper spacing. So this spacing is always required. Then if you see banana, so we can say this particular item banana has three properties. Now, what are mapping? What is mapping, and what exactly is dictionary? It is the properties. So these are not items now. So every fruit will have its own calorie figures, will have its fats, and will have carbs. So again, every banana will have calories, will have fats, will have carbs, but these calories will have specific values, right? So this is how like this dictionary is formed. This becomes a dictionary. It says banana has calories. The amount of calories is 105. Banana has fat. Amount of fat is 0.4. So what is the difference between dictionary and array? So array is just a single representation. It is just an item value. Fruit can be orange, apple, or banana. But when we say dictionary, where we will use dictionary, where the value of this particular property has another value. So orange does not have any value. It itself identifies as an object and says, yes, orange is a kind of fruit. So this is just a array. But when we say banana has calories, how much calories? 105. Banana has fat. How much fat? We cannot say how many fruits because apple is a fruit, right? So in the similar way, this is the just I was trying to explain you the representation of YAML format, and now we will be using it in Docker Compose. So guys, the next thing which we will do today is like we will be going ahead and installing Docker Compose. So at the time I was making up this video, the latest version of Docker Compose was 1.27.4. So you need to remember one thing. If I just go ahead and like select say Google and say Docker compose reference and hit an enter, so there is a reference generated and it says docker file format is 3.8. It does not mean that like this is the version of the docker compose command. This is the version of the file format. This is the version which we mention inside the file, but this is not the version of the docker command. So the latest stable version of docker is 1.27.4. Now let us go ahead to my ubuntu machine and let us install docker compose. So as you can see at my screen, when I typed in docker compose, let me type it again, docker dash compose, it says me that this command is not found, but it also gives me the feasibility to install this command. So for now, I will be just typing in this command to install it, or else you can like install it from the repository, which is like the main repository which is given by docker. So for installing it from that repository, you just need to move into this page which is docs.docker.com compose dash install, and whatever os you are like installing it, you go over there. So we are installing our linux, so you go over there and run these two commands. One is this and second is this. So these two commands are important, and then your Docker Compose will start working. For now, I will just say sudo app install docker dash compose and hit an enter. It will put the password. I will give in the password and say yes. Let it install it. And here it goes. Let me clear it and show you the Docker Compose version, which is docker dash compose dash dash version, and hit an enter. So you see, now Docker Compose has been installed and it is ready to use. So friends, now let us go ahead and like create up our Docker Compose file. So as of now, we like have covered up like 5 chapters in Docker series, and as of now, like we have prepared a Docker file for Apache, and we have not prepared any file for MySQL. So Docker Compose, like it is a file which like takes in the image and run various images on the same host. So like you can run 2 containers or 3 containers. So as per our scenario for this training, now we will be like having 2 containers on one host, on which one will have Apache PHP, and we will like also have WordPress over it, and then in the second container we will have MySQL. So to do this, either there are two ways. Either we can create the Docker file of both of them individually and then like run them, like run the containers separately by a command like docker run and then the image name or the Docker file name, or else like what we can do is like we can put up these images in a file which is Docker Compose file, which is written in YML or YAML format. So I will just try to make sure that you understand how exactly we write YML and YAML and how we interpret like what exactly we are writing. So I probably like writing YML or YML in like Linux. So it when you give the extension, it like marks up the words. So for example, like we will be writing up this file, and we know that this should have 2 containers. So like you can just like try to analyze how exactly the structure of this file will be. So in a sense, you will say that we will have YAML file in which there will be 2 parts, because we need 2 containers, 2 parts, and the first part will serve as, we can say that the first part will serve as Apache container, will give all the details about this Apache container, and the second part, will give you all the details about the MySQL container, right? So how exactly we people work like for creating of these YAML files is like the most common ways people Google it, right? So I will just also do the same. I will just Google it and say Google, and I will say like I want a MySQL Docker Compose file. So I will just say this, and like I have a lot of documents, and in these documents I can see that there will be a lot of things written. Like you can see WordPress, we have WordPress service, we have a database service. So for MySQL, you have to write something like this. So what I will do, I will just copy it and paste it inside a file. So I've already done this copy paste thing. So we will like understand the details of this file in a moment. I'm just trying to make sure you understand how exactly I have built up this file. So this is the file which I have built up. So a Docker Compose file always starts with a version, and like the version which is mentioned over is 3.8. So the latest version is 3.8, and it runs on Docker 1.2.7, Docker Compose 1.27, sorry. On the version which we installed 1.25 in the like just now before. So for this particular Docker Compose version, that is 1.25, the version supported is 3.3. So this will always be the first line. After version we have services. So services are nothing but the containers. So it is asking how many containers will be there. I am saying first container will be web, second container will be DB. Let me delete this. This is twice. So we have 2 services. One is web and second is DB. And like as we just discussed the format of YAML in like 10 minutes back. So we discussed that this will be a key value pair, and when we say that this is a dictionary, right? So the dictionary starts again, the second dictionary starts from here. So it looks something like this. Then this is a key value pair, then this is a key value pair. We do not have an array as of now. So the array will be here. See, this is the array which says ports. We are having a dash. We just discussed about this, right? So this is an array. So I did like I just copy pasted something like this from Google, and then I again copy pasted something like this. So the first thing which you should understand over here is like after services, we need to define this reason, like this container, from where this container will get the image. So either it can get the image from the Docker file, because Docker file are used to create the images, right? So either it can get the like image from Docker file, or else we have to pull the image from the Docker hub. So this is the image which is present in the Docker hub. So there are only two ways. So this is nothing but the latest, we are saying that the latest version of MySQL image which is already there. So this makes sure that we like it becomes easier for us to install something like this, because in the above part, like we created up a Docker file. Here we have not created up the Docker file. So this makes our work easier because we already have pre-built images by Docker, which is like which we can pull from the hub. So this is something which says restart the server always. Then we have some environment variables, so which we I just copy pasted them. So let us not care about it as of now, because this particular file has a lot of mistakes. So obviously when we copy paste things from Google, so things do have a lot of mistakes. So this is why I am here. Like I want you to understand the practical work, how people do work in the MNCs, and like how exactly things are taken forward. So I'm just saving it. So as we use the command docker run to docker build to create an image out of the docker like docker file, in a similar way docker compose file.yml is like executed by saying docker dash compose up. But if you have already created up an image from a Docker Compose, then like it will always use the pre-built image. Whenever you say Docker Compose up, it is actually it says that please run the containers. But if they are not there, then it also builds it. But if you have to specifically build it, then you will say that Docker Compose space up space dash dash build. So it is nothing to worry. We will just see this. So this is my desktop. I will say docker dash dash version. So I have docker installed. Then I will say docker dash compose dash dash version. So we have docker compose. See, we have version 1.25. That's why I said the file writing structure capability is with version 3.3, right? So after we have seen the Docker Compose, I said that we will run Docker Compose up, right? So let us not run it first, see how many images we have. So I will just say Docker, for images, we have images, and hit enter. Sudo Docker images. So I have not make up this user behave like admin. That's my choice. I just use sudo instead. So you can see over here that I have already like tested up my this file before coming back to you, but let me clear all of them. So to clear them, I will just say clear, and now I will delete all the containers first. So I will say sudo docker rm, that is for remove containers, and then I need to pass all the lists. So I will say sudo docker ps dash h dash a maybe, and hit an enter. So it says sudo docker ps dash dash help. So we have it's dash a and dash q. So q is for quite. So it will only print the IDs and dash a. Now hit an enter. It removed it, right? So you can see that the container has been removed. Uh, so it says that it cannot be removed because this container cannot be removed. One is removed because it is already running. So I will just say sudo docker ps, and then I will say dash a for all. Now this is the ID, I will copy it and say sudo docker stop the id this, enter. That's stopped. Okay, now I will clear this as well. So all the containers have been removed. Now let me remove the images, because we cannot remove the images until we remove the containers. So I will just say RMI for removing images, then dollar, then sudo, then docker, then images dash a dash q. Hit enter. All the images have been deleted. So I'll just say clear. Now even if I run just docker compose up, it will give me, it will like run the command. So let me do it. Sudo docker dash compose up, and let me go to the context first. The context is less than cd desktop. So my files have been placed on desktop. Cd, and then I will say docker file. Yes, cd docker file ls. And now I will say, let me clear this and say sudo docker dash compose up. Right, this is the command, simple command, and we hit enter, and docker compose file will start getting validated. But it says that web services web port contain an invalid type, it should be an array. So there is some issue with the docker file. First thing first thing which you need to do is, like, you need to open up this file. So how I created up this file, so you can just copy any file which is there, just press F2 and say docker dash compose dot yml or YAML. Just rename it, like I will say like third, and rename it, and you can see that it has already picked up the file type by the extension. Then just open it, double click it, so it will open something like this, and like you can see all the colors. So you can see the colors in this file, right? Let me close this. Now the second thing is, this is okay that you are having a notepad, but this will not do all your purpose. You will need to do control A, control C. You have copied all the contents, then go to Firefox. This is important, right? You have to see this is required. You go to Google and say YML parser. The very first parser will be this parser, and this is amazing parser, yml-parser.appspot.com, which I have used. So it looks something like this. So I will just say control V, and we can see the output in JSON. This is YAML. So this has various properties where we can define the arrays and like key value pair or data dictionary. So by seeing this file, this particular parser creates a JSON. So like for coders like us, it becomes easier to like understand JSON sometimes. So now you will see that how the spacing is important. So as of now, you can see that this services. Let me uh, increase my screen size. Give me a second, please. Uh, so if you see over here, this particular DB. Okay. So now if you see that this particular DB is starts with services. So that's why this is the key, and then this is the value, then this is the key, then this is the value. And DB is not inside services, but we said that all the containers will be inside services. So to correct this, I will just give a space over here, and you see that there is again an error which said that there is some error in line 13 and 1. So this, I think this one happened because of 13. So let us give another space and bring it with web. So both of them are now in parallel. So that's why it knows like services. Now there are two services. One is web and second is DB. This is what we wanted, right? So we have these two services, which is now common JSON. So this becomes an easy part for you. So and this also gives you like the importance of these spaces. So I have given up some spaces and still this file has some issues. So we will see those issues. So let me come back and paste it back over here. So I have saved this file. So now let me go back to my terminal and clear it and again say up. So now it says that this is invalid because services web port contains an invalid type. It should be an array. Ports has invalid type. It should be an array. It says, and it says build contains option context, unsupported option context. So there are times when these things come. These two issues. So let us see the ports. We have defined ports in two parts. First over here in web and then one in DB. So if you say see over here, it gives this particular error. I think it is giving it for the first one, but like you can see the difference. It is not giving us two errors. So one of these statements is correct. So either we have to use a single quote or a double quote. But I know that this is the error over here. So let me correct this and save it. Now let me clear it and run it. Now we should see only one error. So you can see that it has only given now one error which says that services web build contains unsupported options context. So it is an interesting defect in this particular like file. So if you see over here that this context is a capital C. When I copy pasted it from Google, so I may have chose like Stack Overflow. Maybe I copy pasted it from Stack Overflow. So there, it was capital C. So this is the correct syntax. It should be context, and here we should have dot, which says that this is the present working directory is the context. So here we have to use a small c. That's why this is giving an error. So now I will clear again and say docker compose up, and you see that it has started building up the images. So now it has identified this as a file and it has started building up the images. So again this will give us an error over here because we are using up a MySQL user root. So in this particular image, they what they are doing is they are like creating up the user. If you are giving them the username, they are creating up the user, new user. So this image is built up that way. So root user is always pre-created. Though you do not require to create this user, so I should have like commented it. So that's not a problem. Now we have did it. So it will just give us an error that we will see. So again, the process has started like becoming, and now what the benefit you are giving is like you are like you have a file, you can give this file to anyone and say that just run Docker Compose up, and both the containers will be started. So he or she will not have to start the containers individually. The complete one tier architecture can be started using Docker Compose. So this is the main purpose of this file. So there are a few minor changes which were made in this file, and like I have this file ready. So this is my file. My main motive was like to make you understand how exactly we people write up these files. So I hope I was clear enough to make you understand this. Now let me just remove this, rename this. So we already have a file with this name. Okay. Okay, so this is still running, and I do not want this to be running, so I will just say Control C, and let me clear this, and let me delete all the images again. Clear. And now let me do sudo docker. So if you will not give us the sudo command, this will give you an error, something like this, can't connect to the daemon. So there are two ways of doing this. Either you can like use the sudo command, or either like you can give this particular user the sudo privileges. So I will just say sudo docker dash compose, or you can even like prepare a service for this particular user which is like limited to docker. So that depends what you are doing. So this is the easy way for this tutorial. So I am just saying up. So now let us build this file, and I will then show you up the results. This is the file which we have built. So this does not have any much changes. The only thing is like I have removed of the user. So this will just try to set up the password for root user. Then we have the port mapped. We have exposed this, and we have created a volume over here. We have created a volume over here. So let me show you the results after this particular logs have been created. So now let us go ahead and see the logs. So we gave up the command docker compose up, and then the first building started happening, and then we just scroll down. So we have to check the logs in two parts. Again, some steps are happening, so I am just moving it down. So this is where the first image has been created, and this has been put as the container. Now we go up to the second image, which is MySQL, and this started happening here, and then done. At the end, MySQL is also working. So we can verify it from the front end. So you can see over here that I have already checked it, like on localhost. You can see this particular page. Then we can also type info.php because we added it. So this is working. And at last, like I also added WordPress in the Docker file. So how do you need to add it? Like you need to download this wordpress.tar.gz from the WordPress official website, and you need to place it on the folder which you have like configured as the context of Docker. And then in the Docker file, you need to put up this statement saying add this particular file into this location. So as we have put up this complete file into this location, it will create a folder named as WordPress. So that's why I will have to say WordPress, and then the contents in this folder will be shown up. So you can see over here that WordPress has been started. So that started on localhost, and localhost is running a container. So now you can say just let's go, and then you can configure your WordPress and like connect it with your MySQL. So in the similar way, like the next question comes like how will you connect it with the MySQL? So I will like this is the end of this particular Docker series, and like we will be meeting up next for the Kubernetes series. But like how you need to do it, I will just give you a glimpse. Like you first need to go and install MySQL client on this host. So this Ubuntu machine is the host, and inside this machine there is a container running for MySQL, and you need to connect to that container. So that is the server. So MySQL has client server architecture. That's why you will have to go to the terminal. You will have to right click and open a new window, and then you will have to install MySQL client. So you will just sudo apt get install MySQL dash client. I'm not sure if this is the name. So this is the name, I guess. So you see that MySQL client has started being installed, and then like after installing MySQL client, you can connect to the like MySQL. So let's just say MySQL. So here you can see that we are getting up this error while connecting up with MySQL. So now how to resolve this? This is your work. If you do not find the resolution, then you can come back and drop a comment. I would be happy to help you. But like I expect, like now you can go ahead and like Google this something like saying that this is being said in Docker, and then you can go and see the answers. So there are a lot of suggestions which have been given out here. My agenda was like to make sure that you can use the technology. So that brings this Docker series to an end. Thank you guys. Hope you have enjoyed this series with me.